Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. My name is Dennis Brown. I'm your host, and I have a special guest today, Elio Longario. He's a second-time guest here on the live, and I want to thank you for joining me, Elio.
Thanks. Good morning.
Yeah, so Elio's a past student and now a broker who's been in business for how long? 3, 4, 5 months?
It's about 4 months now.
About 4 months, and things are going really well. The first interview we did, he talked about how in his first week or two, he literally hit the ground running and got a shipper and started making money and doing really well. And now today, just to give you a quick tease, we're going to talk about a question that I get all the time, which is how do new brokers build their credit so that carriers will actually haul their loads? So this is something that every new broker is going to run into. Every new business is going to run into. You have to establish credit, right? Everybody has no credit before they have bad credit. And it seems like everybody has bad credit before they have good credit. So we're going to try to streamline that for you. But before we do that, hit me up here. I know that a lot of people are catching this on replay. If you are catching this on replay, thank you. Appreciate your time. Hit me up in the chat box, hashtag replay. And for those of you that are not, hit me up in the chat box with the city and state where you're logging in from. I'd love to hear from you. While you guys do that, I'm going to have Elio give himself a quick introduction for people that have not listened to the first interview or don't know who he is. So give us a real quick interview or a little intro into you, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, hi guys. My name's Elio. I'm with Interfire Logistics, and we kind of launched our brokerage. Went live in towards the end of February, and after attaining our first customer on February 26th. We were able to move 77 loads in the first 7 business days into March. So that kind of kicked off our experience as a freight broker. And since then, we've stayed pretty busy, and we've acquired several customers, but really consistently working with 3 now. And I can tell you, like in the last couple of months, not even full months, but more like 3.5 weeks, we moved 180 loads. And we're staying extremely busy with just 3 consistent customers. So that being said, I've kind of came across some of the same issues that everybody else is hitting with, carriers not wanting to use a new broker because you don't have enough credit. So I think that's what we're going to get into today. Yeah,
perfect. Thank you so much. So first, congrats, right? I mean, he's been in business for 4 or 5 months now, and he's extremely busy. And, pre-interview here, we were talking a little bit, and he was telling me how busy he was, and he's doing dispatch, he's trying to do calls, and he's trying to do quotes, and he's trying to do all this. And I said, listen, welcome to the world of brokering. And always be careful what you ask for. But one thing I want you to take away from this is that he just said how busy he is, and he's only got 3 primary customers. Okay, so what I want you to take away from this is you can literally make a 6-figure income with a small handful of customers. You don't need hundreds. Now, is it better to have hundreds? Well, potentially, because you're going to spread out your risk, right? You're going to diversify your revenue, which is good. But, you can see how with a very small customer base, you can go out there and make really good money, do extremely well. So I want to point that out because that's important. I think there's a misconception that people think you have to have hundreds or thousands of customers in order to make money in this business, and you really don't. I know agents and brokers like Elio that have literally 5 customers and are making multiple 6 figures in profit in their pocket after all expenses, right? So that's kind of the takeaway, but big congrats to you on that. Let's say hello to a few people that are joining us live, and then we'll dive into the training. I am going to be doing a quick giveaway. I give away these Freightpreneur shirts. People seem to love them, so I give them away almost every week. And I think I'm also going to give away a book. So we'll do that. Hold for the instructions on how to get involved in that. But first, let's welcome a few people. Welcome Nelson from Florida. Welcome Andreas from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Wow, Saskatoon. Michael from Shreveport. Army Co. from Cove Springs, Florida. Eric Vall from Santa Clarita, California. Jay Ward from Dallas, as always. Stacy from New Orleans. Joe Bordsky from Junction City, Kansas. Thank you for joining. Austin from Phoenix. Thank you. Andrew from Tucson. Carrie from St. John's, New Brunswick, Canada. So we got a couple Canadians in the house. Awesome. Cindy Kane from Houston, Texas, who's always here. Thank you for joining us, Cindy. Mahmoud from Cleveland. Ernest from Dallas. Wow. Seems like Texas is always just crushing everybody in the attendance here live. Welcome, Mike from North Carolina. Tamar. Welcome, Nunez. Welcome. Geez, what do we got? Man, we got tons of people. Welcome, Rachel from Brownville, another Texas. Daniel from New Orleans. Teresa. Welcome, Harris from Toronto. Got lots of Canada in the house. They're trying to rival Texas. Richmond, Virginia. We've got Simply Mindy. And if I destroy your name or the city and state, understand the font here on this is super small, so that's my fault, but I apologize. So welcome, everybody. Truly appreciate you guys being here. I do these lives every Monday, and the goal here is not only today is not to necessarily just share my experience, but to actually talk about Elio and what he was able to do, because every new broker is going to face different obstacles along the way, and one of those is going to be credit, right? Every new business, I don't care if you're a pizzeria, I don't care if you're a hair salon, I don't care if you're an insurance brokerage, I don't care what you are. If you, as a business, credit is a part of the gig, it's part of the deal. So you have to build it up. So Elio's going to give you a little bit of a credit hack, kind of a step-by-step walkthrough of how he was able to overcome this early so that carriers would actually haul his loads. And he did a great job at it. I had shared some of this information before, but I think it means more and holds more water coming from him. But before we go into that, really quick, if you guys want a chance to win the Freightpreneur t-shirt, okay, and a book, I'm not going to tell you what the book is, but I'm going to give away a t-shirt and a book. I'm going to randomly give them away. Here's all you have to do. Share the stream. I don't care if you're on Facebook or on YouTube or wherever you're at, share the stream, hit the share button, share the stream. If for whatever reason you can't share it, just type, tag 3 people in the comments below, but then you have to come back into the comments and you have to type #shared. That's how I know that you actually shared it and I can enter you in the giveaway. Okay. So I want you to do that. We're going to be doing the lesson first, and then we're going to do the giveaway after, but you do have to be live. But if you want to do that now, share the stream. And then come back in, #shared. And then after this lesson, we're going to do the giveaway. And then after that, we're going to do live Q&A. Okay. So for those of you that stick around to the end, you'll be able to ask Elio or myself or some questions. We might be a little bit limited on time, but because I know Elio has a business to run and I know that he's probably got a lot of calls to make. So with that in mind, if you guys want to be a part of the giveaway, make sure you type #shared after you share the stream. So those are the instructions on how to win. I will give away the shirt and a book at the end of the lesson. So here we go. So Elio, what was the challenge as a new broker? You literally just started your business and you started having a conversation with the customer. He gave you some freight, but part of the challenge was what? What did you run into?
Getting carriers to work with a new freight broker with no credit history or experience, according to the FMCSA.
Right. So as a new broker, he had a brand new LLC, brand new company, brand new authority, brand new on the load boards. None of the factoring companies knew who he was. So what he decided to do was, roll up his sleeves, use a little bit of elbow grease, make some phone calls. And it went through a process. And we're going to have Elio just guide this process. He's going to give you step 1, step 2, step 3 that he did. And the goal here is for you to be able to garner a little bit of information from that you can then duplicate in your business to hopefully see similar results. So you started out with no credit, but after following this process, what happened to your credit score? I think as it's rated by Truckstop.com, you went from no credit to
AB credit.
AB credit, which there's no carrier that's not going to call on your loads. Every carrier is going to call on your loads if you have AB credit. You have to know that. Now, if you have no credit, then that's a little bit different. So that's hurdle number 1. That's what he was able to attain. And then he went on and he's going to walk you through that process. So give us that step-by-step process, if you don't mind, Elio.
Yeah. So I have a load board agreement with Truckstop.com. So I wanted to kind of learn more about what other services they offer. And I was coming across a lot of carriers that actually factor with Truckstop. So what I then did, asked them, hey, listen, how can I change my broker credit rating from an N for new status to a A? I was going for an A. And they said, listen, the best you can do is a B, but that's only if you give us 5 carriers that you've worked with in the last 12 months. And they're able to provide proof that they've worked with Interfire Logistics and how long it's taken Interfire to pay them for the load. Simple as that. So they have a specific form that they shared with me over email to PDF. And then when I did, I literally just filled out the name of the carrier, the MC number, and the date that they moved a load for Interfire. Once I provided that information, I actually called all 5 carriers and said, look, here's the situation. This is going to happen. You're going to receive a phone call or an email from this person at truckstop.com to ask you these 2 questions. They said, yeah, I'm on board. No big deal. Once we followed up back and forth with Truckstop and the carriers to make sure they answered the phone calls and to make sure that Truckstop was making the phone calls, fast forward, let's just say, it took about 2 weeks. Truckstop.com changed our status on their system from an N to a B. That's the highest rating they can give a brand new broker, given this process of theirs, once you provide the 5 references for carriers. So we're now a B status within that factoring company.
Love it. So what you did was you went out, and I think step 1 was you got the shipper, they gave you the loads. Some carriers were wanted to do business with you, but they were a little apprehensive. So right. In the first stages, what did you do? Did you somehow paid them without the factoring company? You somehow paid them. What did you do with step 1? Yeah,
exactly. So thanks. I felt that to leave that very important detail out. So we actually have a credit line separate from our business. So it's a personal credit line that I've had for a long time. And I use that to fund the loads. Okay. And then I waited for my shipper to pay me back. And then I kind of paid myself back for that specific load just to gain trust and start a relationship with that carrier. So they know that we're legitimate and we're going to be paying them as soon as, they deliver the load based on the terms that we agreed on. So that could be 48-hour quick pay. That could be 5-day quick pay. You decide that as long as that works out between you and the carrier.
So he used his own finances. He used his own credit and his own cash to pay the carriers initially so that he could get a testimonial, so that he could get a reference from the carrier saying that they did business with Interfire Logistics and he paid them in 24 or 48 hours or whatever amount of time it was. And then he went back to Truckstop, right? And that's when you took those references and you submitted them to them?
I did. Yeah. Just they have a specific form that I shared on the boot camp Facebook group. And it's just a simple PDF. I mean, it's not very complicated at all. It's just the name of the carrier, their MC number, and when you used them. That's it. And
so you submitted 5 references and you went from not having a rating at all to having a B rating, which is the highest rating they can give a brand new broker.
Correct.
And from there, now just so you guys understand what that solves, the challenge that solves is that when you post your load as a new broker and carriers can see the Truckstop credit rating that they assign you. And if they don't see a credit rating, sometimes some carriers are not going to call you on that load because they know that their factoring company or, it may not do business with you, and or maybe they don't want to take the risk of doing business with you because you're brand new. But if you have a B credit rating, right, or an A credit rating or a credit rating of some sort, all of a sudden that fear goes away and it goes way down. So now they're more likely to call on that load. Now, step 2 of this, beyond Truckstop, was dealing more with actual factoring companies. Tell us a little bit about what you did there.
Yeah. So then what we had to do is obviously not every carrier we uses Truckstop.com for a factoring company. So more consistently, we came across like 3 factoring companies, and we then decided to reach out to them and ask them to extend us a limited weekly credit line for that carrier. So I would say, hey, look, factoring company X, there's 3 carriers that we've been working with at this point, and we're paying them directly to do business with us. I see they factor with you. They're a customer of yours. Would you like to partner up and see if we can work together? And that way I can fund them through you versus me paying them directly. And that way you'll give yourself a chance to make some extra money on the side. And, some are open to that. Some are not. So it's no different from cold calling shippers, right? Now you're cold calling factoring companies to make sure they support you. So because of that, we now have 5 companies that we work with, factoring companies that we work with that are totally unrelated to Truckstop.com. And we're currently working to add our 6th one this week here based out of Houston. So
what you have to understand, guys, is every factoring company that Elio reached out to, right? Not all of them agreed to what he just said, but at least 5 of them did. Now, here's what this does for you. What you have to understand is if you have a factoring company, right, that's factoring invoices for carriers, they may have hundreds or even thousands of carriers that they do business with, okay, depending upon the size of the factoring company. So let's assume that any viable factoring company is going to have at least hundreds, okay, of companies that their carriers they're factoring for. all of a sudden, by getting set up with that factoring company and getting a profile set up and starting to create a history with them, that's going to open up not just the one carrier that he's doing business with now, but every other carrier that they do business with down the road, new or old. So as opposed to getting, credit set up with just one carrier, now you're getting credit set up and established and proven with a factoring company, which could open up hundreds, if not thousands of carriers to you. Okay. So it's a very good move. Now, a lot of people won't make those calls. And that's why kind of the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and he picked up the phone call, and we picked up the phone and made some phone calls, and good things can happen, sometimes when you just take action like that. Right. So first he went through Truckstop and got his credit fixed there by submitting those 5 references, which we talked about. Second, he went to the factoring companies that those companies were doing business with, and then established a relationship account with them. And so from there, what happened after that?
Yeah. So from there, even for those companies that would not want to work with us with a simple cold call from me, I actually would ask the carrier who actually liked working with us to speak to their contact at that factoring company on our behalf. So we found more success that way because they already have the relationship established with that bank. And because of that, to be honest with you, I mean, it's been a lot easier for us to kind of really move loads across the country now. So again, there's still carriers to this day. Last week, I had 2 carriers say, hey, we can't work with you because you have bad credit. They went as far as saying we have bad credit. I'm like, hey, do you mind putting that in writing just so I can see where it's coming from? And, it's another factoring company that's based out of Dallas that we can't get our foot in the door through. And they'll just say, listen, we're sorry. We have to wait at least 12 months. You have to be 12 months in business before we can consider you and run your credit. So it's not a perfect solution, but it's by far better than where we were 3 months ago.
But of course, being the guy who never gives up, because that's how I know you so far, and the steps you've taken to build your business, you went one step further with the carriers as a way to try to get those carriers that rejected you. You went and what did you ask them, those carriers that you were working with, to do for you? Did they put something together for you?
Yeah. So are you talking about the feedback?
I'm talking about testimonial. Yeah. The testimonial.
Yeah. So then what they would do is I would ask them, and look, just do me a favor, in exchange of me paying you 48 hours, I'll even offer 24 hours if you can just, you don't mind providing feedback. Do whatever you want to put on there. I'll accept what you want to push on there, but just however you felt your experience was working with Interfire. And quite frankly, what that's done for us on the testimonials is now when a specific carrier, an independent owner operator, right, that says, hey, I can't work with you because I don't know you and blah, blah, blah. I'm then able to share with them other carrier testimonials. And I'll tell you what, that's carried so much weight for them to hear feedback from another, peer of theirs, another carrier from a different part of the country saying X, Y, and Z about Interfire Logistics and how quick we pay and how good the service was and everything else. So that's, again, separate from the credit, that's helped me move loads because of the testimonials that we're asking our carriers to provide for us.
Yeah. So step by step, let's say I'm a carrier and Elio calls me to haul one of his loads, and I see he's brand new and I'm concerned about the credit. But then all of a sudden, Elio sends me over 5 or 10 different carriers, testimonials of carriers that have already done business with him, telling how good I pay, telling how good the customer experience was, and telling how happy they are working with Elio and Interfire Logistics. And then all of a sudden he sends those 5 or 10 over to me. Do you think that's going to help the situation, having a new relationship with Elio? Of course it is. It's called social proof, right? There's this old saying that I learned a long time ago from an old mentor, Jeffrey Gitomer, and it goes like this. When you say it about yourself, it's bragging. But when other people say it about you, it's proof. And so that type of social proof is incredibly powerful. It's what makes the entire world go around online. On Amazon every day, what do? You look at reviews, right? And a testimonial is just a review. And so all Elio did was use that same sort of strategy to try to alleviate the concerns of any new carrier that he wanted to do business with. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It's not a guarantee, but here's what we know. We know what's guaranteed. If you don't take some of these steps and you don't follow this type of a process for building your credit, it's going to take a long time for your credit to build up. It will build up over time,
Right.
but this is a way you can expedite that process. You can fold time. You can turn a 6-month process into a 6 or 8 week process, right? Which is a huge, huge advantage. Okay. So is there anything else you want to add, Elio, about this process? Any tips or comments or thoughts? And then we'll jump into some Q&A.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, just stay with it. All right. Don't get discouraged when a courier decides to tell you that, hey, you don't have enough credit for him to work with. Probe further, right? And ask why, and ask where it's coming from. Ask what factoring company they work with. You know, once you do gain their business and they're able to move a load for you, then ask them, listen, based on the service that, we provided for you during this process, would you be willing to maybe refer us to your current factoring company? Get us in connection with their contact to see if we can start working with them. You know, and it's not always a quick, hey, we're going to turn on this broker, on this factoring company. Ask the factoring company, say, listen, you know what? All I need is $5,000 a week. $5,000 a week is when I'm moving with this specific carrier. And then you start. Then you start with just that one carrier with $5,000 a week. And then if you need more, pick up the phone and ask for more. Hey, by the way, I got a big project coming up and I'm looking to extend and pay your carrier $10,000. Can you cover that? You know, and I'll pay you in the same terms. They'll go back and now you've had a track record with them. And just one last thing is, just know this, reach out to Ansonia. If you want to learn more about building your business credit, if you just Google search Ansonia, they're pretty easy to get a hold of and they're very knowledgeable. And I learned a lot just in that 10, 15 minute conversation that I think everybody here could possibly benefit from if you're interested in overcoming some of the challenges that we're talking about this morning.
Yeah, that's Ansonia, Ansonia, Ansonia. They've been around for a long time. They specialize in transportation, logistics related credit. So yeah, so that's a great resource. All right, well, listen, just so you guys know, remember, it always starts with the first carrier. Once you get the first one, it's a lot easier to get the second one. And then from there, it starts with the first factoring company. Once you get the first factoring company and you start moving loads for one of those carriers, it's going to open up a whole stable of different clients that they have because now you've developed credit with that factoring company who has hundreds, if not thousands of clients. So I want to thank you, Elio, for coming on today. I know you're a busy guy. You've probably got a ton of things to do. Why don't we do the quick giveaway? We'll do a few questions and then we'll wrap it up. Okay. So listen, for those of you that want a chance to win the shirt or the free book, all I need you to do is share the stream. It's super simple. Click the share button on YouTube or on Facebook. I don't care if you share it on Facebook or Twitter or Pinterest or where. I don't care where you share it. Just share the stream and then come back in the comments and type #share it. I'm going to see that you shared the stream. And then from there, that's how I'm going to determine that you're a part of the giveaway. And I'm going to do this giveaway. So you guys have literally 1 minute to do this. And then we're going to do the giveaway and then we're going to wrap up with a Q&A. Okay. So, all right. So we see a bunch of people here. And hold your questions until the end because they're going to get lost in the feed, okay? I won't be able to find them. So hold your questions till the end, until after we do the giveaway. Otherwise, I'm never going to be able to see it. All right, so let's see. What am I going to give away as far as a book here? Well, one of my favorites. Let's see. Hold on a minute. It's got to be up here. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. You guys couldn't read it from that far. So, all right. So the book today is going to be my favorite to give away. I've literally given away hundreds. And when I say hundreds, I mean hundreds of copies of this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. If you're new to business or you're new to personal development, this is not a sales book. Okay. But this teaches you skills that you need not only in life, but in business, how to win friends and influence people. What we just talked about today was partially about influencing people's decisions. And part of what Elio did is what they teach in this book. Okay. So these are principles that you can use in any part of your life. Okay. So I'm going to give this book away in one of these shirts. And so why don't we do the giveaway really quick? All right. So you got 10 seconds for anybody who wants to share. And then I'm going to give it away. I'm going to grab a quick drink and then we'll do Q&A after. All right. Cool. Here we go, guys. So I'm going to randomly scroll through, and whoever name I land on, I'll close my eyes. Whoever's name I land on, they are going to be the winner of the shirt. We're going to give away the shirt first. Ready? So the winner is Junior Luciano. Junior Luciano, you're the winner of this Freightpreneur shirt. Here's all you have to do. Go to the Freight Broker Bootcamp Facebook page. Message me with your full name, your address, your size, and your mobile number, because I'm going to need that for the delivery piece, okay? So you need to send me your full name, your address, your size. This is a large. I weigh about 195 pounds, so, reference this as a baseline. If you're much bigger, then get a bigger. If you're much smaller, then, order accordingly, okay? Name, address, phone number, and size, okay? This is limited right now, and I should have mentioned this before, limited now to the US only. I say this on every live, but I'm not going to ship this to Zimbabwe right now, okay? But it probably cost me more than a case of shirts would cost just for the shipping alone, okay? So that you're the winner of the shirt. Junior, welcome. Congratulations, winner of the shirt. Now I'm going to randomly pick the next one. Why isn't this hiding? Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down. All right, get into the shirts, okay. And then here's the winner of the shirt, or the winner of the book, Tony Garcia. Tony Garcia, How to Win Friends and Influence People is going to be mailed out to you here in the next week, as will the shirt, okay? All I need you to do, Tony, is the same thing. Name, address, phone number. I don't need a size because it's a book. They're all one size, okay? So name, address, phone number. Go to the Freight Broker Bootcamp Facebook page. Message me that information. Unless I get that information, I can't send it out, okay? So when you get it, we'll send it out. You should get it within a week or two along with the shirt. Thank you guys for participating, everybody who shared the stream. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Let's dive into some Q&A. So you guys can start throwing some questions in. And, based upon the questions, either Elio or I or both of us will comment on it. And then we'll do a few questions and then we'll wrap it up for today, because Elio has a business to build, guys. He's looking down. I see him keep looking down. He's probably got messages. He's got emails. His wife has questions because she's working in the business with him. And so, he's got some things to do. All right. So here's a question from Lucas. We'll use this one first. How long did you pay the carriers out of pocket before starting to use factoring companies? Elio, go ahead.
To this day, I'm still using that personal credit line, unless it's a carrier that whose factoring company approves the work with Interfire Logistics. I use my credit line and then I pay myself back once I get paid.
But how long did it take you before the carriers started giving you credit and the factoring company started giving you credit?
It was after like the second load.
Okay. So he only had to do a few loads to start opening up some credit. But now what happens is when he has a new carrier or a carrier whose factoring company won't do business with him, he uses this line as needed, but it's now not required to move every load. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. Okay. And the trick here too is, if you can, once you're approved within that factoring company, reach out to that factoring company, see if they can share with you the list of carriers they work with. Sometimes they'll share that list with you. It'll encourages them that you're going to now seek out their carrier specifically so they can earn more money in your transaction specifically. And then therefore you build your credit a lot quicker.
Perfect. All right, good. Good question, Lucas. Thank you for asking. All right, here's a question. It's pretty generic, but I think they'd like to get your feedback, being a guy who's got some shippers that you're working with. How did you get shippers to work with you? As a new broker, okay, what did you do to get shippers to work with you where you've been able to see great success while others maybe have failed or struggled in that area?
Yeah. So my approach is live cold call. And I don't mean necessarily over the phone. Over the phone is part of it, but we show up. I walk into the business. I go to the will call window with the box of donuts, or I have my daughter make brownies, and I'll tape my business card on there, and I'll get crap at the door, and they'll ask me, "Hey, listen, do you have an appointment?" I'm like, "No, but I have a warm box of brownies," and they'll get a chuckle and they'll let me in. And you have like 20 seconds to make your pitch, right? So you kind of have something prepared already that you're going to say. You've done some research about the company, about their business, about their raw materials, about really anything that you can find out about them. If you just Google their name and hit news and say, "Hey, listen, congrats. I just saw that you were awarded X and recognized for whatever." Anything to break the ice and get your foot in the door. The second piece, when they say, "Listen, you're new. Why should I use you?" Well, talk about how you're low overhead cost, right? And therefore you can pass those margins and those savings on to them. So really kind of build on your strengths and your previous experience outside of this industry that kind of correlates with what you're doing today.
Yeah. So what Elio's doing is really compelling. He's doing business with more local shippers, right? So these are shippers where he can drive 15, 20 minutes, a half an hour, knock on a door, face-to-face engage with people. If you have the skills or if your niche allows for that, it's a great way to start developing a relationship because it's a lot harder for people to reject you face-to-face than it is over the phone, right? Over the phone, it's like, yeah, we're not interested. Click. But face-to-face, a lot of people struggle with that, and you're going to get that 15 to 30 seconds to make your pitch. And so when you do get that, whether it's face-to-face or over the phone, what you have to understand is you have to be different. You can't sound like every other freight broker out there that's begging for freight. I talked about this in my freight broker sales trainings. I've talked about this in my freight broker sales program, just enrollment for. We relaunched it the second time. And you have to be a little bit different. What made him different was something super simple. He brought brownies. Just so you know, he brought brownies. Most brokers don't do face-to-face. So that automatically made him different. Secondly, most brokers don't bring brownies or donuts or cookies or whatever it is, right? So you don't have to have a completely different service. You just have to, your approach has to feel different. It can't feel stale. It can't feel generic. It can't feel like the other 47 phone calls that they've gotten in the last 6 months from brokers. Okay. So you've got to be a little bit different. And that's what he did. So if you can do it face-to-face, great. I highly recommend it. I think you'll see some success. It'll be a little scary when you first start, but if you're doing it over the phone, take the same sort of an approach. Of course, you have to figure out a way to get their attention, right? That's the hardest part. Be a little bit different. And then he also mentioned using some sales intelligence, right? Use some information, do a little bit of research on the company, go to their website, check out their press releases, search for news related to their company or to their industry or to their products, and use that as a way to differentiate yourself. So those are a couple of quick tips on how to help you break through when you're new.
Yeah, if I can add something else too.
Sure, go ahead, fire.
And this is, this is kind of so cheesy, but this is what it is. This is my leave behind. This eventually turned into a postcard about this size that I went to FedEx Kinko's, and I fitted all that information into one, kind of business card material type material and left that behind. He just talked about 4 things and why we're different, and that's it. So I don't know if it's helped or not, but it's a leave behind. I don't show up empty.
Yeah, have a simple leave behind. Just something simple. Doesn't have to be super expensive. But what I like about what Elio said was it wasn't a brochure that talked about everything they did and all the services. What he focused on was what makes them different, right? Because there's a saying, I didn't come up with this. The first time I ever heard it was by a lady by the name of Sally Hogshead. And it's different is better than better. Everybody tries to be better. Oh, we've got better rates and we've got better service and we've got better communications and we got better technology. That's a difficult game to play, especially when you're new, because you're not better, right? If you're lucky, you're just as good as your competition, but rarely are you better. So if you try to play the better game, it's hard. But if you play the different game, that's easy. It's easy to be different if you use your head and you think a little bit about your customer, the challenges they're facing. If you think about how the competitors and the market are addressing them, being different is a lot easier than trying to be better. Trust me, you can't always have a better rate. And if you try to play the better rate game, it's a zero-sum game. You're guaranteed to lose. Okay. Good question, guys. Thank you. All right. Next question. All right. So here's a question from Michael. I'm in the FBSA. That's Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. That's a program that I just launched and I closed enrollment last week. So everybody that joined that, thank you, Michael, for everybody who joined the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. That's closed. When it reopens, I'll let you guys know. But he's still new, wants to know what type of software you all use for business when it comes to rate cons, shipper contracts, et cetera. Okay. So what do you use, Elio? Rate confirmations, contracts, other.
Yeah. Yeah, I took the contracts from your training.
And then you just customized them.
Yeah, and I customized them, and I asked a buddy of mine who's a lawyer to kind of review it for me, and I paid him $100, and he added some things. And funny enough, when you go get your business insurance covered, your general liability, sometimes they'll even say, "Hey, listen, we like your agreement, but we want you to use this one instead because this kind of covers you further in more details." So then we kind of mesh those two together, and that's how we came up with our broker carrier agreement. In terms of the rate con specifically,
and that's the broker carrier agreement. Just so you guys know, that's really where the focus was on. That was the broker carrier agreement. Yep.
Yeah, that's correct. Because to this day, I've only had one shipper actually sign my shipper broker agreement
or require you to have an agreement.
Exactly. So
they didn't even give you their agreement. They just were willing to do business with you. Just so you guys know, in most cases, shippers do not require a contract. You can try to force your contract, but that sometimes creates a little bit of friction and can be challenging. Sometimes they'll have their own contract, which you'll have to review and sign. But in a lot of cases, there won't be a contract and it's not absolutely required. I would tell you that probably 90% of the freight that we did in my logistics company, over $200 million worth, never ran through a contract. Probably pretty shocking, but that's the facts. Okay. So there, as far as software, you just use the contracts. What TMS do you use?
I use It's Dispatch.
Oh, ITS. Okay. So Internet Truckstop Dispatch, right? And they have the rate confirmations and everything built right into that. And
they
so
do.
You can sit,
They do. I think it's ultimately it comes down to preference, but it captures everything we need to have to do business so far. But again, just keep in mind, I'm 4 months into this. So what do I know? I just work with what's working for us. And I'm sure down the road, if we get there, we'll outgrow it and go on to something else. But for now, that is doing it for us.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you. All right, we'll jump into the next one. All right, so here's a question from JT Tao. I'm going to drop this question now since I'm bust at the moment. How can you get around a shipper that gives you their email in a way to get you off the phone? Okay, so the old send me information objection. Hey, can you send me some information? Can you email me something, Elio?
Yeah.
What's your response?
Yeah. In addition to yourself, who else makes the decisions for shipping and transporting your goods or products?
Yeah. So he's gathering information. He's gathering so that he can set up a future follow-up. See, what he wants to know is who else is involved in the decision so that when he follows up via email or via phone or face-to-face in the future, he has that name. So he's gathering information in exchange for giving information. It's okay to send information via email. Mm-hmm. But if you just take their objection or the condition or objection they're throwing up of, hey, send me some information, the chances are, you're going to be following up with the same person later, and you're not going to have anything unique to say. So one of the things that I like to say before I do that, I say, listen, here's what I say. Let me pull this out of the archives here. Here's what I'll say. You say, send me information. You know what, Elio, I'll be glad to send you that information. Let me ask you just a couple of quick questions before I do, because I want to make sure I send you the right information. You guys are shipping mainly vans or flatbeds? What type of equipment are you guys using? Oh, we use flatbeds mainly. Boom, boom, boom. I just gathered. I know, and now it's flatbed freight. And most of that freight's coming out of Buffalo, New York.
That's correct.
Yeah, Buffalo. Are there any other shipping locations you guys use? Atlanta. Yeah, we ship out of Atlanta. We ship out of whatever. Right? I'm sorry, I'm answering for you because my mind is just rolling through it. So now I just gathered the type of equipment they're using. I gathered the locations they're shipping out of, and then I'll ask them two more questions. The other question is, can you give me an idea, just a quick idea of the volume? I know you're busy. This is one more question that I'm going to go. What type of volume are you shipping out of Buffalo? I mean, as far as full truckloads a week? Well, we do one a week.
Yeah.
Okay. Might not waste a whole lot of time on that one. We do 100 a week. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, great. And then the last one is, hey, listen, I got an idea. Before I go, can you just share with me a few lanes that you're running on a regular basis so that I can compare that to our carrier network and the capacity that we have, so that when I send you some information, I can give you some more details on that? What you'll find is that in many cases, they will give you 2 or 3 lanes. And then what you're going to do is you're going to use those, you're going to create freight quotes from those lanes. So all you did was just gather 4 or 5 pieces of data. And if you do this quickly and you do it with the way I shared with you, I want to make sure I send you the right information, just let me ask you just a couple of quick questions. And then you drill through those questions. You just gathered all that sales intelligence. Okay. And now you have the ability in a lot of cases to provide not only your information, but quotes. And here's the facts, guys. If you don't provide quotes, there's zero chance you're going to get freight, because it goes contact, rapport. They ask for a quote. They evaluate the quote. You go back and forth and negotiate the rate. And then at that point, they decide whether they're going to use you or not. So those are, you need to try to extract some information quickly and then give that follow-up to them. And then the last thing I might ask before I go, would it be okay if I followed up with you next week? Would it be better through phone or through email? And then just ask permission to follow up, and that's it. That literally will take you 60 seconds to get all that information, and they will give it to you. Why are they going to give it to you? Because they want to get off the phone. So gather as much as you can, because I think that's a valuable real estate and ground. Think about it like a football game, right? Elio's on the 20. I kicked it off. He fields it at the 20, and then I tackle him on the 30. And then he sets his huddle, and then he goes down the field. He goes down the field, right? You're trying to gain ground on every contact. Sometimes you get sacked. Sometimes you lose a few yards. That's when you get a little bit of rejections. But eventually when you get it down into the red zone, right, you keep inching that ball forward. And those are that data that you're gathering and how you're leveraging that information to make it different, to be different, and to build that rapport that's going to be needed in order to eventually get in the end zone. Okay. So I hope that analogy makes sense. All right. Next question. All right. So what's the best way to come up with a quote for a shipper by Keenan B? What's your 2 cents, Elio? How do you do quotes? What's the most accurate way to do quotes?
I call the carriers. I'll see what's online with RateMate and whatever other DAT's offering, but for the most part, it's always going to depend. So call the carriers. And, I think Yogi mentioned he calls over 10 carriers just to get a quote. And I thought that was pretty impressive. I'm doing 5. And if I can get 5 going, then when I'm giving that rate, I also ask them if they're available on the spot. So when the shipper turns around and says, okay, it's yours, I'll have at least 1 or 2 guys that are ready to rock with it. So
if it was a shipment, sorry to interrupt, if it was a shipment on a lane that you weren't used to running, like it was a lane that you were a little bit unaccustomed to, right? Where would you go first? What would be the first step? You would go to the load boards for the rating tools?
I'll be honest with you, I would post a load. I would
post a load
without the rate.
Post a load without the rate. He's going to start getting calls.
Then I start getting phone calls, or I start seeing views on the system, and I'll click and I'll start calling those drivers. Say, listen, I see that you have a truck available from this lane to go into X, Y, and Z. What do you normally run this train for? Hey, what are you currently under? Where's your home base out of? So I ask about 4 or 5 different questions, then we just have a conversation, and I get to know the carrier a little bit more. I ask for the MC. So as we're having this conversation, I'm kind of vetting them at the same time. Then I move on to the next, do the exact same thing 4 or 5 different more times. And then, you always try to get the best rate as possible. So if the first guy says, hey, I'll do that for $5,000, ask the next guy, hey, would you be willing to do it for $4,800? Then if he says yes, ask the next guy, can you do it for $4,600? Then so forth. Again, I got that from a Zoom call, out of this group 3 weeks ago. So that's not my idea. I just took it from there, and it's been working great. Yeah.
So when you call on these carriers, and when the carriers call on you, using some of that previous sales intelligence you got from the last carrier, the feedback, and or from the rating tools is going to be valuable to give you a baseline. If you thinking the rate is going to be 5,000 in that example, then you might want to start at 4,500. And yes, you might get somebody that's going to hang up on you. Right. Here's how you know you're probably too low, is when they hang up on you and you just hear click. Now on the next one, it's 46 or 47 or 48. You do need to negotiate the rate. Somebody says 5,000, say, man, I don't think we could do it for that, but do you think you might be able to do it for 4,700? And if they say yes, all of a sudden now you set a new baseline. You've gathered some sales intelligence. So that's how you're going to get the rates, especially in a volatile market like we have right now, which is where there's a supply and demand, a huge differential between supply and demand of freight to trucks, right? And so that's the most accurate source. Find the average of the rates and then add your margin on top. You can use other tools to give you a baseline there, but that will be the best source of information to give you the most accurate quote. Okay. Good question. Let's see. We're going to do 2 more questions and then we're going to wrap it up, guys. Elio's got stuff to do. Hi, guys. Looking for a quote plug code? No. Paid online consultants. Let's see. I'm looking for a question that we haven't answered. You're awesome. Blah, blah, blah. All right. So here's a question. Question from Joe Brodsky. How hard do you push a shipper to pay more before giving up on them? I pay carriers with problem lanes carriers have. I build a solution and some say yes and some say no. Others want to haggle price. How hard do you push a shipper to pay more before giving them up? I pair carriers with problem lanes. Okay, got it. Okay. So when price becomes an objection or becomes an issue, how do you handle it? Especially with a maybe in a situation with a prospect that you didn't get the business from, right? Maybe somebody where you were, your price didn't match up and for whatever reason you couldn't do business with them. Elio, what's your process there of selling value versus just dropping the rate?
Yeah, so I try to inform them and share information that I've gathered about that specific lane and the market, right? So this is where like the industry news and keeping up to date on certain things may help and come into play. Through a friend of mine who's a carrier, I have access to, their login, right? So I'm able to see to a load board what they're going for. And I'll then share that information. Say, look, this is what the top 40 loads are going for this week in that lane. And this is why we're asking to go up to this price just to be competitive. I'm not even asking you to match. I'm saying I could potentially find you, a match this carrier for this load if you come in at this price. So if I'm at 1,000 and the top 40 loads are paying, $1,300, then I'm going to say, listen, we got to be at least at 1,200, right? That's a quote. But I don't say that without knowing that I've already have at least 3 carriers that are willing to move it for, 1,100 or so.
Yeah. So you have to stand behind your pricing. Okay. I'm not saying that you can't drop a little bit. You can't negotiate. You're going to need to do that. But here's the thing. You need to sell value. What most brokers do is they provide a quote and then the shipper gives them some feedback and says, well, that's way high. And then the first thing out of their mind they say is, well, how much would they have to be in order for me to start doing business with you? They say, well, I'm going to drop my pants and give you whatever you want in order to start doing business with you. Well, you quoted me 2,000, you'd have to be doing it at 1,700 in order for us to do business with you. And automatically, all the margin's gone, right? You either didn't do the proper due diligence or all your margin's gone. So it's not worth doing business with them at 1,700. Right. So standing behind your price, there's a couple of simple techniques I'll share with you just really quick. One is they need to understand 2 things. One, every shipper has had a carrier and a broker come in and offer a low price. And the results of that quote, when they gave them the freight, there was no truck. It happens all the time. It's easy to be the cheapest. It's hard to deliver on that promise. So you paint the picture. Elio, I know that you're telling me you're moving it a little bit cheaper, but I also know this. I also know that you've probably had brokers and carriers that have quoted you this low price before and weren't able to actually come up with a truck. Here's what you have to understand. My rates come with a truck. By definition, you're not going to call me and say, hey, you've got the load, Dennis. I'll pay you the 2,000. And I'm going to call you back in an hour or 3 hours or 5 hours or tomorrow and tell you I can't cover the load. That's not how I work. That's why shippers are willing to pay me a little bit more because they know that when they check it off their list and they give it to me, it's a done deal. They're never going to hear from me again until it delivers. That's one of the primary differences between being the cheapest and have someone who can actually do the job effectively with a real carrier. Okay. So you paint that picture. The second thing is you need to paint the picture of what the real cost of bad service is. And what I mean by that is this. Bad service for a shipper. Let's say they manufacture widgets. Okay. They manufacture widgets and they're selling to some company that buys widgets, and that widget, the company that's buying their widgets is spending $500,000 a year buying their widgets. They're a customer, right? Of the manufacturer, they're buying $500,000 a year worth of widgets. What happens is that widget buyer has lots of options on where they can buy widgets from. There's 73 different companies they can buy widgets from. Okay. They don't have to use that manufacturer. There's all kinds of widget manufacturers. It's easy, right? And so if there are service related issues, particularly on the delivery with any damage, late deliveries, and they start running into these service issues, what happens is that buyer starts to go out to the market and source other providers of widgets. And if they lose that business, most people are going to say, yeah, they lost, if that customer leaves them, they lost $500,000. That's not true. What they lost was the lifetime value of that client. So what's the price of bad service? The price of bad service is the lifetime value of a client. So if that client's doing $500,000 a year, over the next 5 or 10 years, that's now $2.5 to $5 million in revenue that they lost because they decided that they needed to use a carrier that was running a load for $50 less. You tell me if the CFO or the CEO or the owner of that company would make that decision today to gamble $2.5 million for a $50 or $100 difference. That's the real cost of bad service. The cost of bad service isn't just the time on that individual delivery or that claim on that freight. It's the lifetime value of that client. Now, I was pretty aggressive with the way I displayed that to you because I want you guys to listen. So you've got to work that process out. But what they have to understand is what would happen to their job, to that shipper, what would happen to your job if, God forbid, they had a bad experience on delivery and you guys lost that client? What would happen? And all of a sudden, he's going to start immediately feeling pain. He's going to be like, wow, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my retirement. I'm going to lose my wife. I'm going to lose my car. I'm going to lose everything. All of a sudden, that $50 or $100 difference doesn't seem like a whole lot. So now they're feeling the real cost of bad service. You need to paint that picture. Do it in your own way. I have a tendency to just lead with my chin. I'm not really too worried because my passion and my conviction is what people buy, right? They know that when I say something, it's 100% true and I'm going to deliver. Hell or high water, it's going to get delivered. So those are a couple of tips on how to overcome price objection. Okay. All right. So that's going to wrap it up for today with questions. Listen, Elio, thank you so much for being here. I know you're a busy guy. I know we're wrapping up a little bit earlier with the Q&A than normal, but I do want to thank everybody for joining us. Elio, congrats on all your success. I'm super excited to follow the journey. Do you have any last words you want to impart on the audience before we wrap it up today?
Not really. It's just, there's a lot going on and I wish everybody the best and just kind of stay after it. Don't be afraid, overcome your fears. My wife's overcome her fears with cold calling. I watched her do it and develop. She's not the same person today that she was, 2 months ago. I'm not the same guy today that was last month. So it's just ongoing learning. You have to learn and build yourself up and you just ultimately have to believe in yourself and read books, stay off the social media, be careful with the snakes, the grass is tall, right? So just, tie into Dennis, man, to be honest with you, I've learned a lot just from his training process, but more specifically, even the group that's involved within this training team here. So I've enjoyed it. And I hope you guys,
I'm glad you mentioned that because if you are on the fence debating on whether you want to become a freight broker or freight agent, you don't know where to go and you're trying to go on Google and YouTube and you're trying to piece all this together, stop wasting your time. Just go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com. It's going to walk you through the process. It's going to educate you on exactly what you need to do in order to get up and running, just like Elio is. And the other thing is a benefit of that training. Not only do you get the training, but you also get a community, a paid members only community. We have over 1,000 students. It's probably maybe it's 1,200 or more right now. I just started it not that long ago. It's a paid members Facebook community where all the members can go in and ask questions. They can share their wins, their losses. They can get encouragement. The group is very engaging. They love helping. Everybody jumps in. Elio's in there. Yogi's in there. Monica's in there. All the success stories, past students, they're always encouraging everybody. And I feel like that was probably one of the smartest moves I've made recently for Freight Broker Bootcamp was setting that peer group up. And again, it's members only. So it's every paid member helping each other. because they're going through the same stuff. So thank you so much for being here. If you guys want to get signed up for Freight Broker Bootcamp, check it out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. 60-day, 100% money back guarantee. Thank you all for joining me, and we'll see you next Monday at noon.